This is Core Conversations with Natalie Baggio.
Welcome to Core Conversations with Natalie Baggio, and today I'm being joined with Pat Moody to continue his story.
They take me in, they get me all prepped and everything. I'm in the pre-surgery, I don't know what they call it, and the whole team, they've shaved every hair in my body, get me all prepped and everything. And then the anesthesiologist comes in and he goes, "Where's the final blood report?" And they hadn't, the nurse who was supposed to come in and take that early that morning, they had come in and taken my vitals, but they had not taken a blood sample. And he says, "I need the latest." And so they had to step down for a second and take a sample and rush it to the lab. And then they came back and he goes, "Potassium level's too high. We're not going to do this. It could be lethal for you. You only have one kidney." I was born with one kidney.
Oh, okay.
And which is another whole interesting story. They said, we can't do this surgery today because it could be, it could kill you with this, potassium level. And so Dr. Dixon agreed. He said, "Yep, go home, get your potassium level down, And I'm like, "Well, help me understand. Where did it come from?" He goes, "Well, different things cause, foods cause those types of issues." And I said, he said, green beans have very high potassium or whatever, and I said, "Well, now you tell me." Yeah, I ate a bunch of green beans last night the previous day, for my dinner. You're in the hospital. And he goes, "That wouldn't have spiked it, Pat." He said, "You could have eaten every green bean in this building and it wouldn't have caused, the issue that you're looking at right now." So anyway, they said, "Go home," and, so now I'm like, all right, well, what do I do? How do I resolve this? So they gave me all the instructions on what to do. And I guess the standard daily intake is supposed to be no more than 2,000 units or whatever, And so they said, "We want you on
Controlled diet.
Yeah. So they said no more than 1,000. So I said, "Man, I'm not even going to do that." So I was well under that, and so now we're all the way up to March, and they finally got the test back, and they said, "All right, you succeeded in getting the potassium level down. Now we can schedule the surgery again." So now it's all the way up to March 17th. So perfect. Another holiday called St. Patrick's Day. I ain't no saint, but my name is Patrick.
Yeah.
So that's when they did the surgery, and we went through the whole thing, reshaved and all the warm up and everything, and they did the surgery, and it was just outstanding. They did a magnificent job.
Great. And how long were you in the ICU recovering after the surgery?
Well, the surgery itself, I think, was like 7 hours or something like that. It was a long time. And I was, so I went into the ICU at somewhere around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon that day. And the next morning, around 6, the nurse comes in and he says, "All right, time to get you up and sitting in a chair." I'm going, "Okay, it still kind of hurts, And they said, "Yeah, but we got to get you moving." So got me into a chair, and I said, "All right, this was good." So sat in a chair for about 2 or 3 hours, just chatting and chilling. And then he says, he comes in and he goes, "You ready to go for a walk?"
Yeah.
"A walk?" Again, I can hardly move. He goes, "That's all right." He goes, "We're just going to take a walk." And he said, "Now this is entirely on you." They have the large walker thing, and I've got a picture that we can show, of me.
And that was
walking
day
down
one
that
after
was day
your
one.
surgery.
Yeah.
Right.
This is less than 12 hours after the surgery.
It's amazing after you go through a really large surgery how important it is to get up in a chair and start walking.
Yes.
To get everything flowing.
Yes, absolutely. And I learned that lesson lesson, and that was great. And it was funny because he said, let's go for a walk. And I said, all right. And so as we started, he goes, now this is entirely on you. He goes, don't be shy. He goes, if it hurts too much or you can't do this, we'll come back. He goes, and it's not uncommon. He said, I've had people that don't even make it to the door to their room, and they go, I got to go back. I got to go back.
And were you able to circle the whole ICU?
Yep. So he goes, we're going to walk the hall here, you know, and of course there's cut points where you can cut it in half, you know, and so forth. And but we did a whole loop, and he said, we're back at the room. He said, of course, I wasn't paying attention. I'm just trying to focus on walking and talking and just chatting with him. And I think it was Joe, is it? Effa?
Yeah.
Yeah. Joe was just magnificent. He was just superb as an ICU nurse. Yeah. And asked me all kinds of questions, keeping my mind off of, you know, whatever pain might be and so forth. And he said, we're back at the room. He goes, do you want to keep going or do you want to go back to, you know, sit in the chair? I said, well, if you ain't got anything going, I don't have anything going, let's keep going. So we did a second lap. And we're back at the door, and he goes, what do you think? I said, you want to go another lap? So we did 3 laps.
Wow.
And he was just like,
Day one.
Now, I don't know if he was blowing smoke or not, but he goes, holy cow. He goes, I don't think, in all my years at the ICU, he goes, I don't recall anybody ever doing a full 3 laps on their very first walk.
And that's a large ICU.
It is.
It's not a small lap.
I mean, it was, I don't know, it was probably taking us 15 minutes or so. I don't know if it was that long, but it certainly, you know. So I did 3 full laps and then went back to the chair for, you know, like 3 hours. And then did another walk, did 2 laps, and then came back to the chair. And then just before bed, he said, let's do another walk. And we did 3 more laps. So my very first day, within, you know, literally 24 hours of the surgery, I had done, 8 laps?
So when was your discharge date? How many days after?
You know, I honestly can't recall now. It wasn't too many days. Yeah. From ICU, I was only in maybe 1 or 2 more days in ICU. And then they took me to a regular room, you know, just, you know. Right. But it was maybe another day or 2 beyond that. And then it was back home, and they gave me the pillow to, you know, the heart-shaped pillow to clutch for getting in and out of a chair and things like that. And I love, they gave me in the operating suite this gift. It says Carpe Diem, seize the day. And it's got my name information on the back. And they actually put that in my hand when I went in for the surgery. And
that's
and
so
then
nice.
You know, they said just hang on to this, you know. And I guess I held it the whole time, and it sits on my nightstand now every night.
Very nice. We have someone that anonymously paints those rocks and puts them around the hospital.
Fantastic.
For us to give to leaders, team members, and patients.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I'm so glad that makes an impact every day for you.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
it's very
like
special.
It was a very personal gift, and I thought that's really cool. You know, that they gave that to me as a, you know, hang on tight. You know, your ride is getting rough here for a little bit, but seize the day.
So then, what was your recovery like once you were discharged from the hospital?
You know, I was really worried because my sister's partner had a brother who had just had open heart surgery, and he had, I think, maybe double bypass or whatever. And they were just telling horror stories. You know, he's in constant pain, and they told him to get one of those recliners where it will eject you from the chair. It'll stand, you know, you push a button and it will stand you up and so forth. And I said, I literally don't have room for that. I'd have to, you know, change the whole unit around in her condo to do something like that. But nobody else had said you need to do something like that, you know. And they said just be very careful, and you know, don't push with your arms when you go to get up and so forth, because you got to keep the stress and strain off of that surgical, you know,
incision.
Incision. There you go. That's the proper word. Thank you, nurse. To protect that. Yeah. And the toughest part for me, and probably very tough part for Carol, was not the discomfort so much as just the awkwardness of trying to shower or bathe, after that for a couple of weeks. I had to be very, very careful and keep the surgical site dry and protected and everything. But amazingly, when I left the hospital, they said, you can take Tylenol or whatever, but they didn't want me taking all kinds of, and nor did I want to be taking all kinds of painkillers or anything like that. Even when I was in my regular room after the ICU, I said, I don't need any pain medication. This, there's some pain there, but I'm going to gut through it. I don't want to be taking all kinds of, because I hear the horror stories of people getting hooked on stuff, And so I said, I just lived without it. And I didn't even take Tylenol when I was back home.
Wow.
It was just, and there were occasional points where you go, ow, and of course the toughest part was any sneeze or cough,
right.
Hug that pillow when you sneeze or cough or whatever.
But you were really, diligent, it sounds like, about the after surgery care once you were home, because
absolutely
ensuring you don't have any risk for infection is really important.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like that part was seamless for you.
It really was, and you had a great team, who talked about, they're great advocates for getting you through every phase of this, getting you ready for, the surgery, getting you ready for re-entering normal life beyond that and so forth, and just cautions and everything else. But it was excellent. It was a great adventure.
Well, I really appreciate you telling this story. And, it makes me think about your story specifically, like how important EMS is to our community.
Absolutely.
And how important services are for time-sensitive concerns like yourself, like a heart attack.
Yeah.
And I'm really proud of our cardiac team. We have a great cardiologist and cardiac thoracic surgeons, and we're just really fortunate to have those types of services in our community. And I'm just really thankful that you had a good experience and an amazing outcome.
A truly amazing outcome, and I'm eternally grateful to the whole team at Corewell. Everybody was just magnificent, They just so caring and always asking, can I get you anything, whatever, and it was wild. Your team also about several months later, the foot became infected again, for some reason, and I had to go for 6 weeks of
to the wound clinic.
Yes. Yeah. No, not to the wound.
Okay.
I would go to the wound clinic, but I had to go to the Marie Yeager Cancer Center.
Infusion clinic.
For the infusion clinic to get daily antibiotic
treatment.
And so what they had done was they had for my surgery, they had put a PICC line in my arm to for all of the infusions and everything, and they didn't want to do that again, fearful for my one kidney and so forth, and they actually inserted. I had to go into the surgery center again, and they went right into my jugular vein on the right side and put in a dual line there for these infusions.
Something more permanent.
And the people at the infusion center were just magnificent, because I had to go there every single day, and they would ask me every time, can we get you something to drink? Can we get you a warm blanket or whatever? And I just felt, I said, I'm surrounded by these people that are trying to battle cancer, and save the resources for people who really need it. I'm here for 90 minutes and then I'm going on my way. I drive myself here, I drive myself home, Save the resources for the people who really need it. I don't need, a free cup of coffee or whatever, I'm good. Thank you very much. But they were just magnificent people.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that as well. And I agree. We have a really great team at the infusion clinic.
Yep.
So.
Very much so.
Thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for
seize the day.
Yes. Thank you for joining us today on Core Conversations.
The guest featured in this episode of Core Conversations with Natalie Baggio is both a Corewell Health patient and an employee of Midwest Family Marketing and Media, the company producing this podcast. Corewell Health also advertises on Midwest Family Marketing and Media radio stations, including the guest's show, Moody on the Market. Pat Moody, the guest, did not receive any direct payment for his story and appearance on the podcast.